The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello and welcome everyone to the second webinar in the Digital Influence series. Now, I don't have my trusty sidekick, Bronwyn, tonight to help me out, so I'm going to really rely on you to help give me some feedback as to whether you can hear me okay, whether you can see my screen. So to get started, if we can all say hello by typing your names and your location into the chat box, and I'll just confirm that everyone can see the screen okay and hear my voice. So type your name and details in. Elizabeth says it's great. Sydney's 10 out of 10. Good from Steve. Desley's happy. And she's in Hamilton at the moment, so sounds like everything's okay. So you can see my screen okay. So this is the second session of building your digital influence, and we're really looking at how to build your online profile, how to create an online presence that makes you look like a total rock star and helps you attract clients and build your business. Now, this first session is really about the strategy that you need in place before you try and do anything. I know when I first got involved with building websites and online marketing, I was in a hurry to get onto the technology and get something online. But if you don't get the plan right at the beginning, then things can get very messy and confusing later on. So this first step is really important. And the module that we'll be working on, the first module of the course, which is what this webinar is sort of based on and is a bit of an overview for, is it includes strategy, but also quite a lot of digital fundamentals. Because what I find with my clients is people want a really fancy website and they want to be automatically posting to all these social networks and building this world-class brand, but actually most of them don't have the basic skills even to use the internet properly. So don't they're used to using the internet as a consumer, but they're not used to using it as a content creator. And as an influencer, you're going to be creating content and creating online experiences to influence your customers in your market. So you need to master content creation and management on the internet rather than just content consumption. Now, this isn't your fault. I think IT has been taught really badly. I did a bit of IT at school and found it really depressing and not very exciting at all. And it's only later I got interested in it. And these days, you really don't need to know much tech jargon or have any formal training to have a great experience online. Sites like Facebook and technology like iPads and iPhones and other devices are making it very easy to consume online media without having any technical skills. What we need to realize is that when we're consuming like that, we're the consumer, or quite often we're the product. You know, things like Facebook, we're actually the product. The customer is their advertisers, and we're creating content for them and serving as an advertising medium. So really, we've got used to being passive people in the internet landscape rather than active creators, and we really need to change that mindset. And I think Doyle covered this really well in his digital delusion webinars, the importance of becoming a content creator. He pointed out that 99% of people don't consistently create content. So if you start doing that, you're one of the 1%. So big shout out to Doyle there. So in this section, we're going to start with strategy, look at value creation, and then in the course, we'll move on to brand, digital, which is sort of the technology side of things, and influence, which is the psychology and marketing implementation. So in this webinar, we don't have time to go into all of these. I'll cover the first two fairly briefly, and this is a pretty high-level overview. I really want to just alert you to some great resources that I've found that have helped me get much clearer about understanding the different aspects of how we provide value and what our business does and how we relate to our customers. And I know that a lot of you are working on a new business or a brand, and you've used tools, whether it's something like the Key Person of Influence, or say I know Wendy Seabrook and some others have been using the Lean Strategy approach. And you know, I've studied lots of different approaches now to developing clear messages about your brand. And what I've really attempted to do here is distill down the common themes. So what do they all have in common? What are the steps that everyone takes when you take away their specialized language and try and make it as simple as possible? What are the essential steps? And that's what I'll be sharing with you tonight. I've found some great tools that have really helped me in my understanding, and I'll point you in that direction as well. So in the course, there's quite a lot of detail in here. We won't go into all the detail, but one of the things that we'll be starting with really is, what are you known for? Because when you remember, our big picture is that people need to know, like, and trust us before they'll try and then buy our services. And so we want to be known, but what are we known for? Because that just sets up the whole customer relationship. If we start off with a wrong impression, or we aren't clear about what we do, then people get confused, or they won't be able to follow through our full marketing process because they don't know what we're really great at. So the essence of these methods is really about being known for one thing and being excellent at that, and just having that as your core message. So as I said, we'll be going through an introduction to strategy and value, really. I won't be going so much into the brand and other aspects that will be in the course. This will be a free module, so you'll have full access to this as the content becomes available. So don't sweat if you sort of feel like you'd like to know more. You'll definitely get access to this later. And these are quite practical too, particularly the digital section. It's an introduction to domains, hosting, how to get around the internet, how to create links between pages, all the basic stuff you have to know before you've got any hope of doing any online marketing. And that's what I find people really lack. And they buy a website from someone, spend thousands of dollars on a website, and they're kind of stuck with this, almost like someone who's bought a fancy car and doesn't know how to drive. So that's the goal of this module. It will be a free module. Okay, so I'll transfer to my PowerPoint presentation now. So if you can just let me know when you can see this. So we should be looking at a white screen now with some blue writing, 5 steps to a perfect online profile, step 1 strategy. Can you just type in if you can see that? Now, also last session I said, look, I'll be giving away 2 strategy sessions to people who pay attention and answer the questions at the end. So I didn't get a chance to do that last time. We finished on time and wrapped up, but I'll attempt to remember tonight. And so I'll just be asking some simple questions about something we've covered in the session, and 2 of those will go out today. And that's just a 1-hour strategy session valued at $300. So if that's going to be great for you, if you're thinking, oh, look, I'd love to start a website, but I'm not sure what domain to use, or I'm confused about what should go on my personal website and what should go on my business website, things like that. It's great to get some one-on-one time. So sounds like everything looks good there, lots of yeps, and can see it. So thank you for the feedback. So let's proceed through here. So we've got our, as I said in the last webinar, a huge part of marketing is really just creating and communicating value in a way that your customers understand. That's really the essence of marketing and this branding. In the last webinar, we were talking about how quickly the online world has come onto us, and for many people this is terrifying. Other people think it's fantastic and just can't get on enough social media sites. Some people are hoping it's all going to go away, and others are just hanging on for grim life, not sure what to think. So hey, can I get some feedback? How would you classify yourself? Are you a terror, joy, denial, or death grip person? This will be really interesting. So just type that into the question box. And oh goodness me, sorry about the fancy animations. As I said in the last webinar, our goals here are to attract clients, build your brand as an expert at what you do, and to grow your business or career. And I've got a few comments here. So we've got a death grip from Elizabeth, joy, Catherine, joy for Steve, all of the above for Desley, denial perhaps, says Anetta, joy, Victoria, joyish. That says Dallas McMillan, so I'm not sure who that is. It wasn't me. Denial is David, and feeling the fear but doing it anyway, says Wendy. Very, very wise and brave. Okay, as I mentioned in the last webinar, there's three kind of aspects to attracting clients online. They need to find us, they need to recognize us as a likable authority at what we do, and we need to be memorable and remarkable and different. Otherwise, they could just go to the other person similar to us, and we don't have any sort of real brand identity. And as we said, that this communication is all occurring online, and it's happening very fast across different channels. It's quite common now for people to be watching TV while browsing on their iPad and answering their phone at the same time. Like, we've got ridiculous with technology. That means that there's a lot more opportunities for touch points, a lot more competition for your customers' attention, and it's easy to get started with some of this, and it's hard to do it well. So don't sweat if you haven't got everything down. It's a journey that even the top brands in the world are still figuring out. So it's all about getting in there. And as we said, it's all about getting online, but it's not always for your local business. So the global nature of the internet means that a lot of these opportunities are now international, but you still need to develop a relationship. It still needs to be personal. And I found this sort of know, like, trust, try, buy analogy very useful. That's how you get there. That's how you build the relationships with people, is to first they have to know who you are, what you do, how you can help them. Then they have to kind of generally like what you offer. They have to trust that you can deliver. They need to try you out somehow. They need to take that first step, and then they need to buy. And this try step is an interesting one, because it sort of seems a bit superfluous, but this can be trying out a free sample or a cheaper version of the product or an initial trial. We'll go into this in more detail later. So in the last webinar, we really talked about creating a social sales process so that we move towards having scalable yet personal relationships with our customers. So apologies if you're on the last webinar. There is quite a lot of new registrants, so I just want to do a quick recap. When we're selling in this social sales process, we're recognizing these steps people need to go through, and we're tailoring our marketing to suit their needs. So gradually they move through know, like, trust, try, buy, and the result is, rather than just making money, we're also building relationships, and as well as getting revenue. So the output of that process is revenue and relationships. And that process actually supports the customer's journey, because they feel supported. They develop a relationship with your brand that creates more loyalty than if they're just buying a transactional product, like buying a commodity where they're happy to buy it anywhere. Once that relationship's there, it breaks that sense of, oh, well, I can just go down the road, because people like to deal with people they know, like, and trust. So where do we start this process? I'm sure everyone who's taken any attempt at trying to market themselves has heard you need to get a niche, and but everyone tends to start their description of their ideal client with, well, it's anyone who wants anything to do with this, and that is really, it's totally wrong. All marketing says you need to niche down, and most of the sort of the formalized marketing training I've seen uses some variation on what's called a beachhead strategy. So the term beachhead comes from a war term, when, and this is sort of like a computer war game. Oops, sorry guys, let's go back a bit. This is a computer game mimicking this exact situation. If you want to invade an entrenched competitor's land, so you want to attack an enemy or attack a new market where your brand isn't well known, then the most effective approach is not to try to do a little bit of everything, but rather to figure out one thing where you can easily get in. And there's really three criteria that we want on a beachhead. And just to give a bit more background, and people who are older than me will probably know this term. The Allies used this method when they invaded Germany sort of toward the end of the First World War, the Germans had totally occupied Europe, and the Allies were attacking from Britain, and that was a base for the US, and they just attacked one beach in Normandy. So they directed all their force at that one beach, which they'd identified was winnable. It was defendable, so once they got there, they could keep it, and then they could then expand from there. So winnable, defendable, and expandable, or scalable is another way of looking at that as well. But so within our business, we want to niche down to a micro niche initially and be well known, like to be famous for one thing, for one set of clients. So I cover this in a lot more detail because there's a lot to this, but the essence is very simple. You want to be known for delivering one result to one set of clients who have one particular problem, and then whenever anyone hears that type of client has that type of problem, then they know to call you, and they can say, this person will get you this amazing result. So that's really the essence of Beachhead strategy in marketing. And if you've done like certainly lean startup and key person of influence, and lots of other methodologies use this approach. A lot of what I'll share with you tonight comes from a fantastic book called Conversations That Win the Complex Sale. Now, I first came across this material about 4 years ago. I had a marketing mentor who was one of the first people who got into creating Facebook marketing apps, and I'm not sure if you remember like gates, where you had to like a page before you could download something. And there's still variations on that around. But until a certain point, it was quite hard to use Facebook for marketing. And then they brought this technology out, which meant you needed to like someone's page in order to get a gift. And he'd invented this technology and had done a lot of really interesting things in online marketing. But he also had another business where he was managing. It was a startup for managing really complex workflows in large enterprises. So things that couldn't easily be put into a project management system because they weren't really projects, they were ongoing changing situations. So he had this startup with a fairly profitable customer segment, and they went to Silicon Valley to launch this startup. They'd started elsewhere, and they went to Silicon Valley and they went to see some US marketing specialists. They went to a number of firms and spent $50,000 on their marketing. And he recognized this same trend, this beachhead marketing strategy that they were all using, and a number of other things in there. And one of the companies I'm sure he went to, because a lot of the terms he shared with me came from them, was this company called Corporate Visions, Tim Reisterer from Corporate Visions is one of the authors of this book. So this book is well worth a read. They've also got some great videos, and they have some really good sort of PDF type training things as well about messaging strategy. So I've paid particular attention to their stuff because I just think it's a really nice, simple way of doing it. And in the course, I go into that in more detail, and I'll give links to the original material. So they've got this concept called and they call it the messaging period, but I call it the value pyramid. And my take on it is that the way we deliver value has 3 dimensions or aspects or levels. There's what something is, what something does, and what it means. And that might be, for example, that you have a product and it might be a training program, and it might comprise of workshops and some PDF booklets and some phone calls. That might be what they actually get in physical terms, but of course that's not valuable unless it does something for them. What it does is the result that it delivers, and the result that it delivers is the benefit. So the is the features, the does is the benefits. And if like I'm sure if you've done much marketing, you will have heard talk about the benefits, not about the features, because the features are incidental to getting the result. The customer only really wants the result, and they only start looking for benefits. Sorry, they only start looking for features as they get more educated. Early on, they just want the result. But there's a third layer of the way we deliver value, and that's the meaning. And it's probably easiest to deliver this through examples. So if I did some workshop training with you and it helped me to grow my business, that would be the result. So ideally, that's expressed in a form to double the number of new clients I was getting each month, to make that very concrete and clear and specific. But what that might mean is that I could employ 3 new people and reduce my working hours and make more money. That might be the kind of the outcome. So the meaning is often more personal, and it's a bit less cut and dried. The results is really the meat of the value you deliver, but the meaning is often where different brands, some brands are able to push much more up into meaning. And I'll just go to the next slide. I'm pretty sure I've got a few more details. So features, benefits, and meaning. And another way of talking about this, which will be familiar to many of you, is the is the what, the does is the how, and the means is the why. And if you've seen Simon Sinek, start with why. It's very powerful talking about why, because that's what motivates us as people. And that's a great way to look at this. And I think the is, does, means does give you an extra aspect to this that helps you sort of interpret it better. Sorry, I'm not sure why this is repeating. Okay, so some brands are able to put a lot more of the weight of the value they deliver onto the meaning. And this includes premium brands like, say, Tiffany's jewelry or Ducati motorbikes or even Apple as an example. So by focusing on the meaning rather than the benefits, it moves the value away from the sort of nitty-gritty components. I don't know if you remember with computers 20 years ago, everything was about processor size and size of disk storage and things. Now that's almost dropped away, and we're much more interested in, can I use it for this? Can I travel with it and use it as an iPad and have a keyboard? Things like that, which are starting to get much more into the benefits and the meaning. But the example that they give in Conversations That Win, which I really like, is the example of Panadol. Panadol was a new entrant to the market, and there were a lot of competitor products that were things like aspirin, basically. And Panadol was a pain reliever. And it's like aspirin in that it's a pain reliever. What it does is relieves pain without upsetting your stomach. So that's a benefit that it has over its competitors, a benefit with a differentiator. But what that means is that you can go to work even though you've got a sore back, or maybe you can be patient with your kids when you've got a headache. So clearly the value of being able to be patient with your children, it sort of transcends the functional benefits that you get from pain relief. And we can start to see that more clearly with an example like children's Panadol, where it's still paracetamol. The benefits, though, is when it's packaged differently. The benefits, though, are that it's easy to give and the kids will take it and like it. And what that means is that your child can sleep through the night and you feel like you're a good parent and you're not feeling guilty or frustrated at your child screaming from pain. So in that case, the meaning is much more valuable as a parent. I rarely take painkillers myself, but I'm very quick to reach for them for my kids because you hate to see your children in pain. And this is reflected in the price of the different products. So you can buy generic paracetamol. It's only about $1 a packet. Panadol might be $4 or $5 for what's basically the same thing. And the children's Panadol for an even smaller volume might be $10 or $15. Now, interestingly, there's one for cats. As you know, I used to be a vet. Panadol kills cats. So the meaning of a painkiller that's safe for cats is even more valuable because lots of people know that Panadol kills cats. So the painkiller for cats that's really popular is called Metacam, and it's got an even smaller syringe and it costs even more for this tiny amount. but the meaning is so valuable, this importance of looking after your cat, and that they're very hard to give medication to, and they can't take most painkillers, means that is a much more differentiated and value and meaning laden message. So I think that's a nice introduction. I'll give quite a few more examples in the course because that's one of the best ways to dig into this. And it's really great looking at someone else. Like I'll do some hot seats with this at some point and go through someone's product, because that's one of the best ways to go through it. Okay, I just find my mouse. So yeah, as I was saying, high value products and premium brands, something like Tiffany's jewelry, for example, they put a lot of the value they deliver comes from meaning. They are able to differentiate themselves on meaning. And in the case of Tiffany's, there's a great story about a research study they did at a university. They asked students how much a piece of gold jewelry was. Say it's a gold necklace, and they said, how much would this be if it was from Tiffany's? And they said, oh, look, $800. And they said, oh, what if it was from another jeweler, like just a generic jeweler? They said, oh, it would be about $600. That's what. And the question was, what would you pay? So what was it worth to them? So they're prepared to pay more just because it's from Tiffany's, even though they're not actually going to Tiffany's to buy it, even though it's potentially the same thing. Then they asked, how much would it be? How much would you pay for it if it was from Walmart, which is in an American sort of like a massive version of Target in Australia, I guess. And the amount was $200, and that shows what brand value does. People will pay more because it's from Tiffany's, and we sort of expect that and take it for granted a bit. But that's what brand value does for you. But they'll also pay less if it's from a low perceived value brand. So it starts to point to the importance of having a valuable brand. Like, this seems like a bit of a vague idea in a way, a high value brand, but we all know exactly what that looks like. Another example of, so in that way, brands are all about context. Another example of a similar study, they said to some people who were on the beach, oh, look, I'm going to go and get a beer, and do you want one? And then they'd come back, and they did this study with lots of people, but that's a group of friends at the beach. Someone goes to get a beer, comes back and says, oh, can I get some money for the beer? That'll be $2 because it was from the bottle shop, and people would happily pay the $2. And sometimes they'd come back and say, oh, that'll be $6 because we had to get it from the pub. They wouldn't give us the beer there was no bottle shop. We had to get it from the pub. It was $6. And people happily paid that as well. And likewise, they could come back and say, I went to the club, the beach club, and it was $8.50. And again, people were happy. So it's all about context. And we can, in our marketing, we want to be engineering that context to create the value so people will pay more for the same thing, and not just pay more, but actually experience more value as a result, which is the tricky bit. So that's high value brands, but low value and commodity brands, they deliver and communicate most of their value through features. So if you want to go and buy a kilo of coffee, for example, or a ton of steel, then it starts to become more and more of a commodity, and the features start to predominate in how the value is measured. So it's things like weight, grade, timeframes, price, lots of things, characteristics about the product, because they all deliver pretty much the same benefits. And this is exactly what we don't want in our products and services and brand. We want the opposite. We want a high value brand where we're heavily delivering on the benefits and the results, the middle layer, but also we're emphasizing the meaning. And what's important to realize is that the meaning is very specific to the target customer. So if I have children, for example, then children's Panadol is highly valuable to me and very meaningful to me. If I don't have children, it's of almost no value. There's no relevance. But if I have children, but I've never had a really sick child, I might not appreciate just how important pain relief can be to your sanity. So I might not really value that so much. So it's all about the person, which is why getting the right target market is so important, and why in my methodology in digital influence, we look beyond the problem, because the problem is sort of at this level. They've got a problem, and the benefit is you fix it. But the meaning goes beyond that, and it's not the same. Different people, the person who has had a traumatic experience with childhood illness and is really worried about pain will place much more weight on the children's Panadol being effective versus someone who just hasn't had any issues at all. So this is more about what the person's experiences and priorities and values are. So rather than just solving problems, we also need to meet these sort of emotional or personal fulfillment type needs. So in terms of communicating with our customers don't care about the features, but as providers we need to deliver a technically competent product. It needs to do the job, because the results are supported by the features. You can't just magically produce the result. You need the right features to do it. But as providers, we need to know all that technical stuff. Customers really don't care until they become more educated about the product. On the level of does, so the middle level here, then customers want results and providers deliver results. So on that level, we've got mutual or complementary needs and wants and desires. So whereas on the is level, the bottom level, which is the first line there, customers actually don't care about your features at all. Like, it's irrelevant to them. It's not their problem. Whereas they do care about the results, but you've got reciprocal interests. On the level of meaning, then both the customer and the provider can share the meaning. So I think this is really interesting, because that means that if your marketing is about the meaning, then what matters to you can matter to your customer, and it needs to matter to your customer. And it can also matter to your partners and your referrers. So marketing on the level of meaning is highly effective because it transcends the sort of disparate position of results and benefits. Like, for example, if I'm buying or selling something, then I want it cheap and fast and reliable. If I'm selling it, then I want it to be expensive and I want to take my time doing it, and I know it can be really hard to get it reliable. So we've actually got conflicting interests. There's tension on the middle level, whereas on the top level, then you can create shared meaning and shared value and sort of all be on the same page, which is really important, and it really fits in well to the like stage, and I dig into that a lot more in the course. So just a bit like that, just basically goes into more detail on the on what I just spoke about. So to summarize, customers and providers can share their values and the meaning they derive from what they do. So it makes it a very powerful way to connect and communicate with customers. But meaning isn't enough. So a brand rich in meaning isn't necessarily valuable, because the value isn't in your brand, it's in your customer's mind, it's in their brain. So you need something else. And that's an important distinction. Most people think their brand is their logo and maybe their color scheme, or what their packaging or building looks like. That's your branding, and sort of that's the ease of your brand in a way. But the most of your brand actually lives in your customer's relationship with your brand and what they think about you. So your brand exists outside your business. It exists in your customer's mind, in the market's mind, and it's a very intangible thing. So the thing we need to get people's attention. And it's important to realize that our brains have evolved to ignore the vast bulk of information coming into us, because we're totally overwhelmed with sensory input all the time, your brain is actively filtering things out. And this becomes really easy to see if you suddenly take an interest in something. So let's say you get pregnant or you decide you're going to buy a pink Volkswagen. Suddenly you'll see pregnant women everywhere or pink Volkswagens everywhere. And that it could be magic, but the scientific explanation is that's your reticular activating system. So your brain becomes sensitized to that thing, it cares about it, it becomes a priority and it values it, and it starts to notice it everywhere. So, um, some things will get through because we like them. They're different from other things, and particularly if they're fast moving or new or a bit exciting. So we need to replicate that in our marketing. And there's three elements, and this is something that I find really interesting. It's conserved across lots of different branding and marketing methodologies. These three elements, and they are context, contrast, and concrete. And I've seen half a dozen or more different ways of expressing this. But these are the words they use in Conversations That Win the Complex Sale. And I'll introduce another set, which I think is really nice too. But these are super powerful and a great way to dissect your brand and your message. Really powerful way to identify why you may or may not be connecting with your customer as to whether you're ticking these boxes. So context is about relevance and meaning to your customer. For example, if I don't have a cat Panadol is of zero interest to me. And if I'm not pregnant, I don't particularly notice pregnant ladies. However, if I get interested in something, or I want something, or I'm the ideal customer for it, then I start noticing it everywhere because it's relevant to me. And this is the reticular activating system, that concept that you start seeing pink Volkswagens everywhere. That partly explains why the first layer of the social sales funnel is search. So if you missed the last webinar, the know, like, trust, try, buy, the first layer, know, the context that occurs in is search. We're unknowingly looking for things that might help us. So you need to be immediately relevant to your customer. You need high contrast. So your brain is not very good, or the part of your brain that makes decisions and spends money and buys is not very good at differentiating between similar things. It likes clear contrast. It wants to buy the red one, not the blue one, rather than one of 50 different shades of grey. So high contrast is really important, which is why your brand or logo and your marketing should be distinctive, stand out, and be different and bright, fast moving. Things like pop-up ads tick all these boxes. Concrete is about the solidity and safety and provability of things. So physical objects are concrete. Things that are tangible rather than being sort of theoretical or abstract. So if your value proposition to someone is full of words that have 3 or 4 syllables, and they're full of marketing speak or speech from your industry, then people just won't understand it. Whereas if you keep it really simple and say, I help doctors increase their profits by 50%, or then people get that. So that's a benefit. The meaning might be, so the last person I helped like this actually made so much money the next year that they retired 2 years early and bought an extra practice. So that's sort of the outcome and the impact on their life, which is one way of communicating the meaning. But the concreteness is all about making it real and believable, because the part of our brain that makes buying decisions doesn't get theory, it only gets practice. So another way of putting these three things is relevance, difference, and substance. And if we go back, you can see that these are exactly the same. So context is relevance, contrast is difference, and substance is concrete. So they're the three things that a really great brand needs. It needs to be relevant to the customer, it needs to be differentiated from the competition, and it needs to be safe and solid and provable and trustworthy. I'll go into that in a bit more detail lately. So those three elements can support our brand value pyramid. With those three things, then it will hold up this brand value pyramid. And if you need all of them. If you aren't relevant, your customers either don't care or they don't need it. They just say, no, I don't have a cat. I don't need your cat Panadol. If you're not different from your competitors, then customers can go and buy the similar product down the road. You can't charge a premium because people will just price shop. And importantly, you need to look different. It's not enough to be different under the surface. It has to be really clear how different you are. So, and it's really important to then market on those differences. And that's a huge part of this this Beachhead marketing strategy, is that you first identify where you're different and you market to those differences, providing they are strengths. And that's a great way to market in a non-competitive way, rather than saying, oh yeah, we're better than them with this. You just say, oh no, totally different products. The Lexus is a luxury petrol vehicle, and the Tesla is a performance electric vehicle. So totally different markets, and both of those products will have their ideal client, and that ideal client will value the differentiation. Someone will actually prefer that it's petrol driven. Someone will prefer that it's electric driven, and there's no point trying to convince petrol buyers. Well, there's a point, but the easy win, the beachhead, is to first find the people who want the difference and market to them on your differences and on your strengths. The third leg, substance, which is concrete. If you don't have substance or proof, then customers can't trust in the product, or they can't risk it, or they don't believe it. So that is often things like case studies or metrics from previous studies. A guarantee is another example of a way to create substance or concrete, or trust symbols like brands you've worked for, or endorsements, or having appeared in well-known magazines, are all ways to add more substance and proof to your offer. And as I said, you need all three. If you don't have one of those legs, then the whole pyramid falls over. So our idea in building a brand is that we want to be consciously engineering a high value brand. We want to be looking for opportunities to make sure that we're marketing from our results, and that those results are highly meaningful and relevant to our customer, that they are differentiated from the competitors, and that they're provable and concrete. And we also want to push up into meaning. We want to create a lot more meaning in our marketing, and one of the ways we can do that is by identifying what our clients value, and how our product or service delivers value through meaning. And this is covered in lots of detail in the course. What's really great about this is that the meanings, and I identify three sort of primary themes of value and meaning for a brand. They become fantastic themes for marketing. So if one of your meanings is about sort of business success through innovation, then you can talk a lot about innovation and find the people who value that meaning and that specific approach to success, and you can talk about that with articles or social media shares, and you're not selling your product at all, but you're going to attract the people who value innovation and success through innovation, and repel the people who don't like it, and they're going to be your ideal customers. So you can really see that's it's totally different from marketing, just talking about the problems you solve or your benefits. It's instead finding those people who will be your high value clients, because there's 5 or 10% of the market who will pay 5 or 10 times or more for the same product or service and will receive 5 or 10 times more value than the other people. And if we figure out how they derive meaning and we can address that well through our product and our marketing, then we can create a lot more value for our customers and capture more value for our business. Now, look, that is bringing me to the end of these sessions here, and I think that is the end of the slideshow. So I would like to go to some questions, and I'll also think of a few questions to ask and give out a couple of these brand strategy sessions. So if anyone has a question, if you could type it into the chat box, I'd be more than happy to answer it. And yeah, any other feedback, I'd love to hear as well. All right, so just waiting for that typing to go in. So I'll start with my question. So as I said, the prize is a 1 hour brand strategy session, and we can cover whatever you like. We can cover the material in here, or if you've got a really applied application, you want to do something specifically, or you want help setting up a website or something like that, then more than happy to address specific issues like that too. So for my questions, I'm just going to change back to the browser window, and then I can go and check the answers to the questions, make sure I ask the right ones. Just find my PowerPoint. Okay, so here's a good one. What is the other word for substance? So first in with the answer to that will win a 1 hour session. And I've got a question here too, and it's who's asked the question about the subspecialty brand. If you could just type your name. And I'm just going to grab another little question. So, and that is how do commodity brands and products deliver most of their meaning through what level? Okay, great. So Drew, did you also type in concrete? So Drew's coming up as Dallas McMillan for some reason. Okay, and so it looks like Desley did. I'm a bit confused. Okay, so Desley is going to win one of these sessions, and Anita got the question on the is. So it was is or features, and Anita was first in with that. So congrats to Anita and Desley. And so I'll return to Drew's question now. So the sub brands, and I'll read Drew's full question out. So would I talk about how a subspecialty brand is separate and distinct to the core brand? And Drew, do you have headphones? If you have headphones, I might get you one just to give us a little bit more detail on that. Just type in if you have headphones, Drew, or Dallas, should I say. And yeah, Anita says thank you. That's great. I'll arrange with both you and Desley to have that session. So with a subspecialty, a sub brand or a specialty brand, I would love to get you online if possible, Drew? Okay, well, let's have a go. We'll try and get you on. So I will find you. Oh, gee, there's a heap of Dallas McMillans here. I don't know which one you are. I don't know how this happened. Um, Hi there, is that Drew?
Well, no, this is Dallas. This is the real Dallas McMillan.
Ah, look out, busted. Who am I? Okay, great, Drew. So, could you elaborate a bit on your question, please, about the sub brands or specialty brands?
Sure. One of my interesting positions is my core brand, Sapient, is a little old, but the website is a behemoth. So what I've done is slice the brand up into two additional specialties.
Mhm.
I have small brands, small websites, and I can create something afresh from that. So my question is, how is it possible to have a specialty brand that is a premium and to have a core brand which is perhaps a bit more target?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And if we go and have a look at this brand architecture thing here, this is we'll go into detail on this in the third webinar. But in essence, this first level here represents the know. So this is the top of the funnel. A sales funnel would sit over the top of this. You want to be known for one thing, and every brand, whether it's the core brand or the sub brand, should be known for a single thing. Now, the sub brand, there's a number of ways to incorporate that sub brand with the different market in there. It could potentially be almost like a P for P within your sales funnel, if it is the same customer and it's sort of like a low barrier to entry point. But if it's deliberately targeting a different customer, then one way to do it is to um, it's going to be a little bit hard to explain this, but effectively these three things here can be the three problems that you solve or the three values that your brand stands for. And one way to carve up a big brand into little brands is that each of the smaller brands can represent one of those values really specifically. So effectively, you're dividing the priorities between the brands. Another way to do it is that, like, if you think of KPI, the Key Person Influence program, they've got a five-step process, which in my architecture is this level here. So they've got a five-step principle-driven process, like the five things that you have to have in order to become a key person of influence. And for each of those five things, they are anchored in one person. So they've taken five personal brands and packaged them into a really powerful, comprehensive, bigger brand. So, I'm in a similar situation, Drew. I've got way too many brands and websites and trying to whittle them down and reconcile them. I have an SEO business, and that, potentially that can become part, if I wanted, that could become one of the essential parts of my process. And I could say, in order to get found online, you need to be visible, you need to be credible, and you need to be remarkable. So we do SEO, and we do authority branding, and we do strategic brand differentiation. And then the SEO business sort of supports your overall message that you need these three things. So there's lots of ways to slice and dice it, but look, definitely you'll really love what comes out in this course, particularly the stuff on brand architecture. It just gives you a lot of sort of systematic ways to break your brand apart and put it back together and see how that works. And yeah, lots of different variations. So I think that you should get into that.
Really,
That's in the free module.
that's really interesting because I think a lot of us wrestle with the idea of specialty when what we do has sometimes so many elements which are each special within themselves. So
Mm,
that's a really interesting layout you got there. Thank you.
terrific. Pleasure, Drew. Okay, so I'll just go back to the questions. So Elizabeth asked, what are the prime characteristics of a professional brand for, say, an accountant? And again, this sort of needs to wait a little bit. But in my branding methodology, the three things, the three values or the three priorities, and I've got quite a few clients who are bookkeepers or accountants, so I've had this conversation a few times. If you think about accountants, they tend to they value stuff that we don't necessarily value. Well, we don't want to have to value, like the importance of doing your tax, for example. I really don't care about until I have to care about it. Whereas accountants probably have a personality that means they're much more likely to be to pay a lot of attention to detail and make sure things add up and that they're done on time, and all the things that accountants need to do. So there's certain sort of characteristics or priorities that they will hold, which might be, for example, one of my clients, Katrine Costa, who I don't know if is on the call tonight. She has a company called Cairns Precision Bookkeeping. One of her values is precision, and she's German too, so it really fits with her personality. But to someone who values precision, that could be really attractive. Someone else might find that a bit uptight and micromanaging, and while they know it's important, they might not really want so much attention paid to that. So that's one of the ways where the values are really useful to help to sort of add more, and it's really to add personality to your brand. These are the things that comprise personality, particularly for a corporate brand. It's a way to make it more human and the people in the organization need to share those values. Obviously, not all of them will share them all 100%, but the other aspect, and I'll go into it in more detail, but I think it's a great one, is the top level here, the first level. We want to be known for one thing, but also there's a corresponding kind of brand personality to that. And I generally use the term archetype. That's based on sort of Jungian archetypal theory, that every person has sort of a unique character, but they break into several recognizable patterns. And it's things like the rebel. There's a really great Udemy course on archetypal branding, which I did recently, that does a great job of explaining this, and lots of colorful examples. And so someone like an accountant, all accountants are going to be a bit different. Some accountants might be, we're with you standing up against the big tax department. Others might be saying, oh, we're going to help you become powerful and successful and leave a legacy. Others might say, oh, look, we make accounting fun. So they're all bringing kind of a different personality to it. And archetypes are a really interesting way to look at what that one, your one character what your one character is, but then that's supported by these values in this methodology. So as you can probably tell, those things all relate more to the meaning of that level, whereas a lot of branding approaches, say for example in key personal influence or lean startup, they talk about what's the problem you solve or the thing that you do, and then what are the three pain points that they've got. So that's very much on the functional level and benefit level. So my methodology is all about getting up into the meaning and just thinking really about how you add more value through meaning. So I'll head back to questions. That was Elizabeth. Thanks, Elizabeth. I hope I helped with that. Okay, that is the end of the questions as far as I can tell. So if anyone else does want to ask a question, go crazy, but I'll wrap it up otherwise. Thanks very much for joining me tonight. I normally do this to a whiteboard, and in the course I will be doing them on a whiteboard more. I wasn't comfortable trying that in conjunction with GoToWebinar, particularly as I'm running this one myself, but I actually find it really powerful doing it live on a whiteboard, even though my writing's not that neat. And again, the business corporate visions, who wrote the book The Conversations That Win a Complex Sale, they, in fact, I think I might have their website here. No, can't see it. Yeah, they really talk a lot about whiteboarding, and I found it extremely powerful. I was really stuck with my method and working out a lot of this stuff. And once I started writing it down, Robert Burke was very forthright about telling me I should be writing it down on paper, which I eventually listened to him. It only took me about 2 years. But yeah, writing things down on paper and then whiteboarding as a way of communicating is extremely powerful, because we've all grown up in an education system where the teacher stands at the front of the room and draws on the blackboard, and we all sit down there and listen studiously. So as soon as you start doing that, people kind of get into, oh, I need to pay attention, I need to, and I'm the learner and that's the teacher. So it's super powerful. Thoroughly recommend their book and their videos as well. So thanks again, and thanks Desley for the chat there. Desley's also agreeing about the whiteboard. Terrific. Thanks again. The next session is next week, next Thursday, and next session we'll be talking about the customer journey. And this is something I really love. We mentioned before about the know, like, trust, try, buy, and the different stages that they go through. I'll deal specifically with how we buy commodities, because we've got so used to buying cheap things online from Amazon or from eBay or through Facebook or online marketing. We're getting really quick about spending our money online. So we're used to buying commodities, and that means that more than ever, we're expecting all problems to be quick and easy to solve. And if you've spent much time with me talking about websites, you will have heard me griping a bit about people who say, what's the ideal plugin for this? We want the quick Band-Aid solution, but very often our situation is more complex. And as I'll cover in the next webinar, if you have a product or service that is complex, that your clients don't understand, and that can't be bought as a commodity, you have a much more valuable brand. And what we want to achieve is structuring our sales process and so that it supports this high value sales process. But importantly, we have to educate the buyer that this is not a simple problem. Everyone's hoping they've got a $5 problem that will take 2 minutes to fix. And sometimes they've got a $10,000 problem that will take 2 months to fix. So that's what we cover there. Know, like, trust, try, buy. And also how to actually structure online sales to sell offline products. That's what a lot of my clients are wanting to do. They're wanting to do lead generation for expensive professional services. So that's a really rapidly evolving area, and I've spent a lot of time trying to get the best information I can on that. And the final part of the next webinar is on creating high value products. So if you're in key person of influence, then you will be familiar with the concept of the full and remarkable product, or the core product. And based on the study I've done and this branding process, I've got a bit of a formula for what makes a high value product or a full and remarkable product different from a normal product. They're very different things, and that will be super interesting for anyone who is trying to create a full and remarkable product or market it. So I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. You should all be automatically registered. I'm sorry for the slightly confusing emails or very confusing emails. I've integrated GoToWebinar, Infusionsoft, a WordPress site, and a membership site. And Infusionsoft is a bit confused about times and dates. Apparently, it doesn't seem to play nicely with others. And that should be all running very smoothly by next week. But the correct time and date and to save it to your calendar, go to the GoToWebinar email. So thanks for your patience with that. I'm glad you all made it. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great night. Thank you.